999, what's your emergency? I can't quite believe this, but there's a body washed up on the beach. Can you tell if they're breathing? I'm not sure. I'll just check. Hello? Are you still there?
Well, it's not every day you find a body washed up at the beach. I mean, if I was finding bodies every time I went for a walk, I'd be a millionaire.
It could be quite bleak round here, if I'm honest, especially during the winter. But there's nothing quite like a washed up body to bring the community together,
I remember there were strange cans of ham strewn across the beach. And I can vividly recall that there was a beluga whale.
Well, I guess I'll
A beluga whale nudging the body onto the shore. And I remember thinking to myself, I couldn't believe it. A beluga whale in Pembrokeshire in the middle of January.
Do you want a cup of tea? Can I talk to the cameraman? Does he want a cup of tea? Do you want a cup of tea? Tea.
Yeah.
Tea.
Dean was a character, all right. We met at his caravan showroom. I was after a camper van. He tried selling me a used 2010 Lunar Cosmos 6 berth. I know, right? He knew his caravans.
So it's all gas powered. Here we go, look. See, it's gas. Yep. Tea mugs is up here, they are. Here we go.
He had such a childlike enthusiasm for selling caravans, demonstrating the hidden cupboards under the sofas. He'd make people test the chemical toilets in front of him. God.
Stuff like
He'd often wedge himself into the utilities cupboard just to show how much space there was. The man could sell a caravan. We spent our honeymoon at the National Motorhome and Caravan Show. Dean was always on the search for new models. He'd always be checking the classified ads in the newspaper to see if there was second-hand caravans. And that's what led him to Pembrokeshire.
Well, frankly, I don't care how many cobalt mines her recently deceased father owned. If she's trying to bring in $30 million into this country in my name, I want nothing to do with it. Sorry, just had a... I've been having a bit of back and forth. You get these kinds of dealings, in my line of business. Excuse me. I've worked in some strange cases in my time, but must be said, none quite like this one. I thought it were a simple close and shut case, seafaring gone awry. I couldn't have been more wrong.
So what I'm imagining is a body washed up on the beach.
Did you want to do the reenactment?
Yes, we'll do the reenactment. Yeah.
Okay, and I thought for it maybe you could be like covered in seaweed.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking maybe like a bucket of crabs could be thrown over you at some point.
No. No crabs.
No crabs.
Crabs is too
Why no
much.
crabs? What's wrong with crabs?
No crabs.
Are we going to be in black and white?
No, it's in colour.
Why do you want it in black and white?
I just thought it would look cool.
Can we see it in black and white?
Alright, but the rest of the film will be in colour?
That is cooler. So who else are you interviewing?
I can't reveal names for legal reasons.
Is this about Dean?
Plainly about Dean.
Oh, we know what happened to Dean.
It's definitely about Dean, isn't it?
Well,
You don't need to use a fake name.
You don't, yeah.
We know everything about him.
Yeah, we've got his address, his family's address.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are you going to try and make out that he died or something?
not necessarily.
yeah. You're gonna portray us like the sort of the guilty party.
Are you?
And then it'll turn out at the end that they were actually really innocent, and actually the real victims
Were us.
were us all along. Like we say, it's just camp policy to keep everyone's details, in case of emergency.
But you didn't report you had a missing person.
What? We didn't know it was an emergency at the time.
Can we talk about film? Just a minute of the time.
I'm with Phil.
Can we talk about film? Just a minute of your time. And if you listen closely to us, we can help you change your life. Have you thought about them? Did you know the end is nigh? Now's the time to save yourself before we go and die.
So let's get one thing straight, okay? We're not a death cult.
We're not a death cult.
We're not a death cult.
But I thought that...
We're not a death cult.
Oh.
So where do we begin?
Pembrokeshire.
The rugged seas,
The cliffs.
the wildlife,
The charity shops.
hedges,
Hedges.
Lots and lots of hedges.
Pembrokeshire just calls to you, you know, like a siren. It's very easy to just turn up and never leave. I didn't realise how true that was till I got here. I was on a campervan tour of Wales with a few friends. We got lost looking for our campsite and we found this quirky looking park down an old dirt track. Barely any signs. Apparently it was a notorious nudist colony in the 70s. They told us that when we got there. They took our bags before we even had time to take them out of the van. They were so pleased to see us. They had these old prefab shacks for the reception area and then just a sea of caravans, all various stages of decay. And barns. They had lots of barns. And livestock. Of course, people weren't living in the barns at this point. We drank wine and sang around the campfire, and the next morning we all went down the beach and picked litter. Well, we were told it was to pick litter.
Oh yeah, we always tell people we're picking litter. Yeah.
And it sounds wholesome.
It does. It sounds very wholesome. Yeah.
We had a great time, and then we set off home. Well, you see, there weren't any signs, and our sat-nav brought us round in circles, and we ended up back at Camp Phil a few hours later.
So let's just say that the GPS satellite signal around the camp is compromised.
Compromised, yeah. Yeah, our intern Sebastian, he does a lot of the nitty-gritty work.
Yeah.
We have him out swapping the signs around all the time, you know.
Keeps him busy.
It does. It keeps him busy. He needs structure.
It was getting dark, and they convinced us to stay another night. We got talking, probably opened up a bit too much. At one point, they'd split us up into different corners of the communal zone. One of my friends was starting to suggest we stay all summer, get jobs there. When we tried to leave in the morning, our engine wouldn't start.
Yeah, well, that would have been Peter or Derek.
The camp leaders, Liam and Polly, they said their mechanics would fix it, but wouldn't be around for a few days. They suggested we could stay longer, like for a week. Then a week became 2, became a month. 2 months. Before you knew it, we were just living there.
She called me a leader.
Yeah, I also have a few bones to pick with that. Namely, we don't have a mechanic, per se.
I'm a leader.
I'm Derek Reynolds. I do the maintenance at Campville. My good mate Pete. We do most of the stuff around here. Fixing things, painting, repairs, strimming, shoveling, wheelbarrowing. That's a fun one. Yeah, mowing, burning, occasional childcare. Drown workshops, funeral arrangements, everything that needs to happen at Camp Phil falls on my shoulders. Yeah, and I have my own garden shop, and I use tools from my garden shop to do work on Camp Phil, and I get free accommodation. Yeah, all the necessary refinements of a caravan holiday park, courtesy of yours truly. Occasionally we do have to dispose of organic produce, be that from the underground laboratories or the on-site slaughterhouse, occasionally the go-karts. My main interest is butterfly conservation. I've been trying to get a butterfly sanctuary going for a while now at Camp Phil, but we've had a bit of a decline in the insect population in recent times due to the fracking. Yeah, we see a lot of people coming and going. There's a lot of people staying on site at the minute. Especially over by the pig barns. Gets quite busy over there, but a lot of the campers, they're quite happy mucking out the pigs. No one wants to sleep in pig muck, do they? I think there's about 1,000 people on site these days. Of course, there was only about 300 people worldwide.
300 members worldwide!
Worldwide! 300 members worldwide!
Worldwide? Wow, that's impressive.
300 members worldwide. I remember Dean telling me that as if it was a lot of people.
Excuse me, but 300 people, I mean that is the equivalent capacity of a regional theatre production of Cats the Musical. That's what that is.
Worldwide.
Worldwide?
Wow, that's impressive.
Local police cordoned off a beach in North Pembrokeshire today after the discovery of a person washed up on the shore. The victim, a man known locally as Dean the Caravan Salesman, was believed to be living on a reclusive commune managed by a controversial spiritual movement led by a former child star known only as Phil.
It's like an old-fashioned kettle, so when it boils it will whistle. See, that's how you know that it's boiled, when it whistles.
Dean's family and I had tried to contact him for a couple of years at this point. We were led to believe that he didn't want anything to do with us and he was happy at Campville.
Yeah, that's all true. Dean was our top caravan advisor. He was happy.
Sure, we faked a letter to his wife and children.
Oh yeah, of course you do things like that, and the thing is, people are too busy. There's too much to do to sit down and write a letter.
I copied his handwriting from his diary.
Yeah, his public diary. It was his public diary. Well, that's just Dean. That's just Dean. He was very open.
No, he wasn't.
Very open about his life. Yeah.
They confiscated everybody's phones. Everyone had access to a few old computers, but there's no internet, just the local intranet, which is just a weekly camp newsletter, adverts for Cool and Sooth. There's no contact with the outside world.
We can't compromise on security. That's just, that is rule number one.
Yeah, and we can't have things leaking, especially about our underground animal testing facilities.
Aye, I'd had my fair share of run-ins with the Church of Phil. Aye. We once sent the lads down to Morrison's in Lavford West. The Church of Field sent a few lads from the camp there. They were coercing people into taking personality tests, and I weren't having that. And they'd already been pestering the people raising money for the rescue dogs, and things were turning nasty.
Yeah, I mean, we've had words with Sebastian about being overly territorial about Morrison's, but you know, if you think about it, really, if he hadn't put that charity collector in hospital, we may never have gone on a recruitment tour, and we might not be sitting here talking to you now.
Aye, for a time we were inundated with calls about this camp's antics. Yeah, usually it related to the neighbouring camp, All Seasons Holiday Park. Aye.
Y tro gyntaf es I gwrdd â Camp o Phil, roedd dydd gyntaf fi a rheolwyr All Seasons. Es nhw danfon fi basged llawn o wasps.
That was a good prank.
Yeah.
That was a good prank.
Yeah. It was so funny watching Sebastian try and put the wasps in one at a time. We didn't give him gloves.
No, we had gloves. We just didn't give him the gloves.
Dwi ddim yn deall pan fod nhw'n cael ei mewn I fi mor gymaint I dweud y gwir. Mae pobl yn dweud, well, y staff nhw'n dweud bod nhw'n just fel na I gweud y gwir. A mae pobl yn dweud nhw wedi cael wyau taflu â nhw o'r bushes, rhai nhw wedi cael y tyres nhw slashed. Rhai nhw unwaith wedi dwy'n y keycard, y universal keycard ni, a wedyn aeth nhw i'r pwll nofio a troes nhw ar y wave machine pan oedd ni'n cael over 80s water aerobics class ar.
Someone's turned the wave machine on.
Look, I'm not saying any of these things didn't happen, but what I am asking you to do is think about the context. Think about the context, okay? You know, these things wouldn't happen without good reason. You know? Do you know what I mean? There's no smoke without fire, is there?
What do you mean?
Well, what I mean is there's no smoke unless there's fire. There's no smoke without fire. You've got to have the fire to have some smoke.
You just keep saying it. I don't get it.
Yeah, you've got to have some fire. Otherwise, there's not going to be any smoke, is there? So I'm saying we brought the smoke because the fire was already there.
Yes, nhw wedi rhoi y mascot ni, Willie o Wombat, ar tân.
Well, if you look at the mascots side by side, you'll notice that they have clearly copied us.
They've plagiarised us.
They have plagiarised us.
Just I dweud, roedd ni wedi cael Willie o Wombat blwyddyn cyn es nhw'n can bari. Sa'n ni'n gwybod ble ces nhw y syniad o, ond a dweud y gwir, nhw ddim yn edrych un beth fel hynna'n, iawn? Sa'n ni'n gwybod be gael nhw y syniad. Wel na, ti'n gwybod beth? Es nhw copio ni.
It was getting too much, and I had to go over there myself and issue the camp with a restraining order that not a single member of the Church of Phil could set foot inside All Seasons Holiday Park under no circumstances. Of course, the All Seasons Holiday Park were exaggerating the whole thing. It was a complete misunderstanding, wasn't it? Aye, yes, they were the innocent party, weren't they, Church of Phil? But they took the order surprisingly well. Suspiciously well, I noticed. And I noticed these kinds of things. I detected a hint of suspicion, and I don't think I was wrong.
Well, of course we accepted the restraining order. Of course we did, you know, on the face of it. But were we going to abide by it? No.
We'd already dug the secret tunnel, through into their camp. So what we were meant to do? Not use it.
Exactly.
So what we did actually, it was great. Do you remember? We used the secret tunnel, went over to their camp, stole all of their pedlos.
Swan pedlos.
Swan
Yeah,
pedlos.
yeah.
Painted them pink. Now they look like flamingos.
Yeah. If we ever spoke to any of them outside the park, you know, brought them into custody for questioning, it were always the intern, Sebastian were his name. They behaved as if they lived outside the realms of the law. Aye, and they lived under the governance of this character Phil, right? You know, he gave them license to do his bidding. Of course, I had no idea who this Phil was. I had not the slightest inclination in who that was. Oh, Phil. Well, where do we begin with Phil, really?
We wouldn't be here without Phil.
That's true.
Apparently, Phil was born in a caravan on top of a cliff during a thunderstorm.
I heard he had magical powers. I heard he was born in a petrol station. He could also shoot laser beams.
He was born in a petrol station round about the 1980s.
There's lots of theories floating around.
That's the main one.
Yeah.
It was Christmas Eve in the 1980s, and Barry the Beast was out at his local petrol station doing some last-minute Christmas shopping, when all of a sudden he was visited by 3 floating ghouls. "Oh Barry, oh Barry," they said. "Oh Barry, oh Barry, do not refrain. We come in peace, but you are to be slain. Oh Barry, oh Barry, oh lucky you. But why me?" said Barry. "What did I do? Oh Barry, oh Barry. Oh what a thrill. You are to host the newborn baby Phil." And as the ghouls whipped out their shiny new spears, Barry the Virgin's fate became clear. They motioned towards him like cautious crabs. And they stabbed, and they stabbed, and they stabbed, and they stabbed. And as the ghouls pulled out the ropey guts of the beast, they merrily danced, and they had quite the feast. As Barry staggered, and then was still, from his belly burst the baby, Phil. Phil was held aloft for all to see, and the ghouls all cheered, "Hooray! Yippee! Hooray! Yippee!" And in return for Barry's noble sacrifice, Phil granted the beast eternal life.
What the petrol station was like, sort of see the forecourt there, and the shopping would have been in the back there. It wasn't a very big petrol station, of course, so maybe 1-2 pumps.
We were going through a bit of a rough patch, as everyone does. He went off in the caravan for a few nights, and I remember when he came back, he had this non-medicinal towel thing stuck on his forehead. And I said to him, "What are you doing with that non-medicinal towel thing on your forehead?" And he just smiles at me and pulls out his phone and shows me this YouTube video.
And now for adults, non-medicinal Cool and Soothe migraine.
Cool and Soothe. I mean, you can't talk about Phil without mentioning Cool and Soothe.
Cool and Soothe.
If Harry has a fever, I give him medicine.
I can't believe some people think that it was just an advert. It was so much more.
I use Cool and Soothe sheets, which have a special layer of gel.
People talk about this Cool and Soothe thing as if it were some sort of global phenomenon. But, you know, where was I during this global phenomenon? Sleeping under a rock.
I had never heard of Cool and Soothe.
Cool and Soothe keeps kids cool.
I didn't see what all the fuss was about. Dean spoke about it as if it was some sort of magical power.
It's hard to forget it was just a pharmaceutical advert for migraine relief. Who'd have thought it would spark a whole worldwide movement and make Phil an icon?
Without Cool and Soothe, I don't think I would have been able to curb my addictions.
How's my little soldier?
I'll survive. It's just a powerful phrase. I remember just thinking, yes, I will survive.
I'll survive.
Phil's appearance in that advert changed the world.
And considering he only had one line,
I'll survive.
it was groundbreaking. And then, of course, there was the migraine menace.
Yeah, no one wants to speak about the migraine menace.
Oh.
My name is Dave Wilson, and I played the migraine menace opposite Phil, aka Harry the Cool and Soothe Kid. It was a bit like Tom and Jerry, I suppose. You know, I was the Tom to his Jerry. The thing is, people really believe, they genuinely believe that I was this evil masked assailant who was, you know, hell-bent on murdering a child. They actually believed that. Dear migraine menace, I hate you so much, I wish you would die in a burning swamp full of ibuprofen. Yours sincerely, Polly Preston, aged 8 3/4. That was one of the more pleasant ones, to be honest. So a couple of days after we visit Camp Phil, I come into the station in the morning, and everyone's walking round with these godforsaken sanitary towels on their foreheads. I think I must be going mad. They're all wandering about and talking and chatting excitedly about Cool and Soothe and Phil and caravans. Turns out they've all been to a recruitment seminar.
I don't think any of us really anticipated the reception we'd get when we took the seminar on tour. You know, we went to Edinburgh, London,
Swindon,
Stroud up in Edinburgh. You know, we had practically tens of people flocking to see us every night. I remember one night in Edinburgh we had 4 people show up,
and we recruited every single one of them.
Dean said he'd been to a recruitment seminar. I assumed he meant for the caravan company. I didn't realise he'd been to a cult thing. I mean, it was pretty clear early on that he was being brainwashed. Going around saying, Phil be with you, growing out his hair, leaving me and the children, that sort of thing.
Brainwashing? I mean, if you call a high-tech PowerPoint presentation brainwashing, sure, go ahead. How would you even go about that?
Well, you'd probably get them to take a personality test and then make them repent everything in their life and believe in the one true founder, which is pretty much what we did.
I mean, who's to say that brainwashing's even a bad thing?
I certainly didn't see it as brainwashing at the time. To me, it just felt like I was in the middle of the greatest social and spiritual revolution since Woodstock.
In many ways, Camp Phil was this century's Woodstock. Just replaced Jimi Hendrix with a caravan.
Yeah, and a field full of hippies with a barn full of sad people with something missing from their lives.
What's the difference?
I remember reading how a bunch of people had been to a seminar in Scotland, and the next day they'd all set off to this campsite in southwest Wales. And it was about the time that we'd all lost contact with Dean, and it just sort of clicked. I thought I need to find a way to infiltrate the cult and get Dean out of this thing without, you know, going all Expendables. So that's when I got in touch with the North Pembrokeshire Gazette.
Well, the newspaper was struggling at the time, as a lot of printed press still is. And we were mainly covering stories about potholes and parking charges, school fates and things like that. We did know about the Church of Phil. We had a few readers writing in to tell us about their personal experiences. I mean, historically, there's always been problems in our neck of the woods, especially when it was a nudist colony. So, long story. But we hadn't managed to get any interviews with the leader, Phil. He was always busy when I tried. So when the family of Dean asked me to go in, well, I couldn't really say no.
Ah, yeah, we knew she was an undercover journalist, straight off the bat.
Yeah, after all, she had a biro in her top pocket and a lanyard, and she even told me that she worked for the Pembrokeshire Gazette.
Detective Bimble insisted that I go in with a walkie-talkie, you know, that I was meant to update them on the search for Dean. I found that a bit inconspicuous, you know, you can't just walk around with a walkie-talkie. And it was hard enough already to convince people that I wasn't undercover. So, you know, I asked for something a bit more high-tech. You know, I really didn't know what these people were capable of. They lived pretty off-grid.
Well, yes, ideally we would have had the technological advances to allow our mole to carry some sort of macroscopic listening device. Maybe they could have had a pen that were also a lighter. But look, mate, I said, look, you know, this ain't the Bourne ultimatum. This is real life. It's real life we're dealing with here.
As far as I know, I was the first person to successfully infiltrate the camp. and not mysteriously vanish as a consequence. I know that there were several holiday park inspectors who vanished shortly after going, so you know that's good. And obviously the public, they seem to have no idea what was going on. You know, I think they did a really good job of disguising what was going on in the secret underground lab, which, as far as I can tell, was just used to test cool and soothe on various exotic animals. I got a job running the crazy golf hut. You know, if you've ever wondered where the balls go at the end when they disappear, well, actually there's this complicated pipe system, and they go through, and it ends up running through to an incinerator that powers the windmill on Hull 5. So I'm only a few days in, and I'm already really starting to feel the power of Phil.
I'm with Phil.
You know,
I'm with Phil.
The daily personality tests and the circle of shame really make me feel kind of at one with the movement, and Polly and Liam tell me that Phil will be incredibly proud of my work running the crazy golf. There's a great gang there, real characters. Not all human, I must say. You know, when I signed up for a yoga class that turned out to be led by a giant mutant humanoid talking banana, I was a little bit sceptical. But you know, you get used to it. It's bizarre. After a while, Mr. Banana, you forget that he's even a fruit.
She called me a fruit?
Then there's this former circus performer, Chimpy. Apparently he was a big karaoke star in Japan, but then he had to go into hiding because he killed a member of the Yakuza.
Is that just his nickname?
Chimpy, no, it's not a nickname, he's an actual monkey.
I swear to God, do not get me started on that psychotic chimp.
Of course. We welcome people and beings from all walks of life.
We don't pass judgment.
We do a bit.
Well, of course a bit.
Chimpy's like the camp minister. He leads special ceremonies and meetings, and the raffle on Thursdays. It's the death raffle.
That makes it sound so extreme. I mean, you know, yes, we call it a death raffle, but you know, I mean, Polly, can you even remember the last time someone actually died at a death raffle?
Yeah, pretty sure last week.
Okay. Well, we don't have it on record that anyone has actually ever died at a death raffle.
No.
At one of these death raffles, I ended up sitting next to this guy and got chatting. His name was Dean, and we'd just both been bombed out of our caravans, actually, long story, and we were staying at opposite ends of the barn. This was, of course, before Caravan 42C entered the picture.
Caravan 42C.
Caravan 42C?
Caravan 42C? Oh, yeah.
Caravan 42C.
So our undercover operative informs me that I need to find out information about this Caravan 42C. So I head off to the archives in Haverfordwest. I go through hundreds of years of newspaper reports, and there it is.
I wouldn't repair that caravan with a barge pole.
Depending on who you ask, that caravan is cursed.
We don't call it the murder caravan for nothing.
It's because someone was murdered there.
Not Dean.
Oh no, not Dean.
Not Dean.
He wasn't murdered there.
When I first moved to Camp Phil, everyone said stay clear of that caravan. Everyone who stayed in that caravan has died. You can still see the bloodstains on the sofa.
Yeah, it's not just the sofa. I mean, it's everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, the carpet,
the cupboards.
It's a murder caravan.
What do you expect?
Yeah, me and my pal Derek, we won't go near it. And I tell you, my dog Peter, he just barks at the damn thing the whole time. Must be haunted by all the people that were murdered there.
Now you see, before Camp Phil was Camp Phil, it were the Sunshine Camp, a notorious nudist colony. Aye. And that's where Caravan 42C comes into it. It were the last surviving relic of that nudist colony.
Dean and I had both had to recently move out of our caravans because of some problem with the Ministry of Defence.
What? Oh God, that is embarrassing. Okay, so basically, we hired out one of our camping fields to the MOD for bomb testing. Might have forgotten to tell a few of the residents that they were coming.
They arrived really early, about 5 a.m.
Yeah. This is your 3-minute warning. It was all very realistic sounding.
I mean, it was real.
It was real. It was real. They were genuinely there to get these tanks just turned up in the fields to blow up the caravans.
The residents, you just saw them running out their caravans, carrying precious belongings like children and.
They took what they could carry.
Yeah. The odd cat.
We found ourselves out in our dressing gowns early on a January morning. And the MOD rolled in and obliterated about 25 caravans.
And really, if you think about it, it was actually Sebastian's job to tell everyone that they needed to move out. So
this is on him.
This is on him, yeah.
Yeah, I've cleared up my fair share of MOD testing ranges in my time, but nothing compared to the craters left behind by those caravans. Cool, blimey. I think we ended up just burying most of it in the fields, along with anyone who was unlucky enough not to survive.
But then, of course, you've got a problem. You've got 1,000 people on site, not enough caravans to go round. What do you do in that kind of situation?
You put them in the barn with the pigs.
You put them in the barn with the pigs.
It's obvious.
The conditions on site, particularly in the barn, were abysmal. It was like in the Middle Ages in there. Pig muck, people living in squalor. There was an outbreak of Lyme disease.
Come on, it wasn't that bad. You know, some people just got on with it. You know, some people thrived.
The Lyme disease was unexpected.
The drinking water was the same milk waste they got into trouble over for dumping in the river and killing the fish. People were getting ill.
I will have you know that milk waste water was triple filtered. There was nothing wrong with it. You know, I personally took the trouble of sampling the milk waste in front of everyone just to prove that there was nothing wrong with it.
Thank you, Polly, but I don't want a glass of fresh drinking water from the tap. I want a glass of Campville's finest milk waste. Can I get a glass of milk waste? Fetch me a glass of milk waste. I can reassure you that it's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine to drink this.
He's drinking the milk waste. Oh my God.
Audible gasp. Audible gasp.
Refreshing. That was delicious.
My body was actually starting to get used to drinking the milk waste, but there were still some voices of dissent bubbling away.
Dean wanted out. He was sharing a pen with the sow and her offspring, and I think it was just getting to him. Plus his job was intense.
Look, everyone's got a role to play in building Phil's empire. You know, that's the trade-off when you join Camp Phil.
You leave your worldly possessions behind, you leave your ego at the door, and you get to work.
Get to work.
Basically, they put it to you that everyone had to pay their way through work. It was all about doing the dirty work, and then eventually we'd all be living the life of luxury inside Phil's mega caravan.
Did the children work too?
Oh yeah, everyone worked, no exception. That included kids.
The children are useful. They've got small hands. They're good at reaching into machinery, rat holes, so many uses.
Get down the mines a lot easier.
Yeah.
The kids have fun on site, you know. They like to use the lawnmowers.
You know, we like to think that kids have a use, you know. I mean, what else would they be doing? You know, playing violent video games? Listening to degenerative rap music?
Not on our watch.
No, gotta keep them in line.
Dean worked in the secret underground laboratory.
We weren't supposed to know about the secret underground laboratory, but when you've got almost a third of the residents working on it, it's not really such a secret anymore.
Now, from what I heard, They were working there mainly with cool and soothe on animals, and they were doing experiments to see if they could get the non-medicinal cooling properties of the cool and soothe to work with some semi-illegal and very unstable ham.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. But it's not semi-illegal.
No, it's completely illegal. Yeah, we get it from an abandoned warehouse in Chernobyl.
We call it Saham.
The S stands for sharing.
Sharing ham.
Dean had had enough. He wrote a letter of complaint to management, demanded to be moved to more appropriate accommodation.
To whom this may concern, the conditions in the barn are terrible. People are getting sick. The tarpaulin sheets have a tear in them, and the rain is causing hypothermia. We are running out of food. Please can something be done about this, or I will have no option but to take this up with the authorities. Yours sincerely, Dean. Dean. Sounds to me a little ungrateful. You know, you didn't see anyone else complaining.
So Dean was offered a choice, either the barn or the murder caravan.
Dean was different, you know, he'd given up his life as a caravan salesman, he'd just lost his home, you know, he had nowhere else to turn, so I guess we felt sorry for him.
Did he have a choice?
Well, it was the barn or the murder caravan.
Yeah, that caravan was the only one left after the bomb testing. Wouldn't budge. And believe you me, they tried. Once they'd gone, we had to go ourselves. We stuck some dynamite to it. Thing wouldn't budge. Unexplodable.
Even Chimpy wouldn't go near it.
It was a lot easier to put him in there because no one else wanted to stay in it.
Because of the curse.
Because of the curse. Historically, everyone who stays in that caravan either disappears and or dies.
It's got nothing to do with us.
You can't even blame us for it.
And apparently the murder caravan actually predates the caravan park itself.
No one knows how it got there. There was a nudist who was the last surviving member of the nudist colony. He always said it was cursed because it was built on top of an ancient burial ground.
Of course, all the nudists there were just brushing it off, you know. Like, it's just a murder caravan, they were saying. What do you expect in those days? You know, if you were dealing with a murder caravan, you just took it at face value. You know, it were different times.
I was a member of the Sunshine Camp from the 1960s right through to the present day, yes. Did I buy into the Church of Phil? Well, yes, I did. I did a bit, actually, yes. I must confess, I did go round with a cool and soothe on my head and not much else. Did I believe that the caravan was cursed? Yes. Yes, I did. Would that have stopped him going out in the dinghy that night? No, I don't think so.
Dean and I had been on a few smuggling raids together. Now, the camp was big into smuggling.
You name it, we'd smuggle it. Food, medicine, priceless Egyptian artefacts.
Yeah, of course they get chows from other countries, you know.
Bendy bananas, remember those?
Salt. We see ourselves as carrying on a proud Pembrokeshire tradition of salt smuggling.
So I come from a long line of Pembrokeshire salt smugglers. My grandfather, he owned a shop in Solva where he would smuggle salt. That would be his base.
So the Church of Phil, they were under some sort of impression that because people used to smuggle salt hundreds of years ago, that was still a legitimate thing to do.
Essentially, the play was that you would buy some cheap ham from international waters, and then you would fake a shipwreck by dropping a load of planks of wood and the cargo into the water so that it would all wash up together.
It was just a happy coincidence that a member of the camp was always first on the scene to claim the cargo.
And that's just one method of avoiding VAT. But I'll tell you this much, it will catch up with you.
And that worked perfectly every time until the time that Dean went out alone.
One morning, this is 3-4 weeks after Dean moved into the murder caravan, I knocked on the door and there was no answer. I tried the door and it was open. I called out Dean's name.
Dean!
When he didn't answer, I thought it was strange because it was such a small caravan and Dean had fantastic hearing. There was also blood dripping all over the walls, which wasn't strange as it was the murder caravan.
So forensics found out that the blood on the walls were actually jam. Nah.
Dean made a lot of jam.
Ah, Dean was always making jam.
He didn't have a hygiene certificate, but it was great jam.
It looked like he'd made this jam in a hurry.
And that wasn't like Dean.
He was in a hurry. I mean, you know, he had 250 boxes of Crimean ham waiting for him just off the coast of North Pembrokeshire.
Sebastian woke him up early that night. I think about 3 a.m.
Smuggling exercises always took place in the early hours. Being out on the open ocean in the middle of the night is good for the soul.
It's also good for avoiding detection from the authorities.
The weather the days before had been good sailing weather.
It's Sebastian's job to check the forecast before they go out on smuggling runs. But that night, for some reason, he forgot. They were also meant to take the 2-man dinghy, but he forgot that too, and Dean ended up in the solo.
We call it the Franken dinghy.
It's because it's made up of other dinghies that have previously sunk.
I woke up in the barn and I could hear this creaking. The tarpaulin had ripped in two and was flapping like crazy. The wind was howling and I knew that something wasn't right. I noticed that every single pigsty had blown open and all of the pigs had gone. So I went outside to find them all just gathered around Dean's caravan. And I thought that was odd, but it wasn't safe for them out there, especially the piglets. So I rounded them all up and I got them back in the barn.
When I found out that Dean was missing, I had to tell somebody.
I heard that Dean was missing because Pete had lent him a trowel. So basically I supply a trowel rental scheme, a bit like Blockbusters. So you rent a trowel, you take out a different type of trowel, then, you know, you swap these. Anyway, Dean, well, he was late. He was late bringing his trowel back, which was unusual for Dean.
Of course, we all thought this had something to do with the letter. It wasn't the first time. Liam had a history of making examples of people.
What am I being accused of here? Are we talking about the Rock?
Oh, the Rock. Yeah.
The Rock! The Rock.
Everyone has done time on the Rock.
Yeah. Even I've done time on the Rock.
I personally haven't done time on the Rock.
The Rock is this big rock, and they take you out there and they leave you there, and the tide comes in, and basically you get very wet or you die.
Did I think Dean had been sent to the Rock? It crossed my mind. I also thought it was strange that we held a vigil for him when he'd only been missing for 3 hours.
They even released a song, like the day after he went missing, almost as if they were ready to go before it even happened.
He's gone, 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 gone. He's gone, 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 gone.
It did look a little odd that we're singing about him as if we knew he was dead.
I wouldn't have even known they were a missing person. Not until everyone in the office was singing this goddamn song for a guy we haven't even started looking for.
So we recorded the song the morning Dean disappeared, and I remember some people suggesting that maybe our time would have been better spent searching for the missing person rather than recording a song.
What's the best way to draw attention to a missing person? You know, search for them in the sea.
The sea is massive.
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 Massive. Our energy is better spent, you know, doing what we do best. You know,
making it look like we care.
Making it look like we care. Exactly.
Holding vigils for people when they just vanished seemed to be standard protocol.
They once held a funeral for Phil as if he was dead, and that's when they tried to kill everyone with ham. But actually, we all just ended up having this massive hallucinogenic trip where we spoke to the child Phil. It was quite nice, actually.
I'm not going to lie. You know, we have planned for every eventuality, and one of those eventualities, you know, could be that one day, despite all his power and worldly knowledge, Phil could succumb to a fishing accident, just like any of us.
He travels around in an aquatic caravan. It's the first of its kind.
Is it true you tried to kill everyone with ham?
Okay, well that ham wasn't meant to be eaten in such a vast quantity for a start. You know, it was mainly display ham.
Yeah, and we hadn't tested it on the pigs yet either.
Yeah, it's my gas. There's a guy up in the village, he gets the gas in and I buy it off him. That's my gas. So that's how I make my cups of tea, my beans, everything on the hob, the hot water. Got a big one, little one.
A man found washed up on a beach in North Pembrokeshire earlier this week was today confirmed to be Dean the caravan salesman, a missing member of the Church of Phil. Doctors say he is alive and in a stable condition.
Have you got a Netflix account?
Netflix? No, I don't like getting DVDs through the post. So last thing I remember is I was there in this rickety little dinghy and there was a loud bang and everything after that goes blank. Then I wake up in hospital.
So we're going to hospital to see the kid. He's fine. He's absolutely fine. I mean, he's looking surprisingly well for someone who's meant to have been at sea for a day and a half. So the detective inside me is starting to arouse suspicion.
Apparently people are saying I was saved by a beluga whale. Bonjour. But I find that hard to believe. A beluga whale in Pembrokeshire in January.
When I heard Dean was alive, I just put on a coolant soup and cried. It was a miracle.
There's no other way to put it. You know, he should have been dead. He should have been dead. I mean, the state of that dinghy when he went out. You know, the crates of ham weighing it down, the storm that night. Yeah. I mean, it was all going against him, wasn't it?
Yeah, the harpoon damage in the side.
Doesn't help.
Now, Dean swore blind at the whole ordeal. We're a complete blank, except for one detail.
Anyway, so I told the detective I was completely blank, except for one thing.
A harpoon. So apparently, as the story goes, when the Russians, or whoever it were, made the drop with all this ham, yeah, bear with me, there was someone else there. In an old battered fishing vessel. That's right.
I could see him dressed just like a fisherman out of some old film. He holds up this harpoon and he's aiming it towards me. So I try rowing away as fast as I can. But of course I'm weighed down by my cargo of ham. And that's when I heard the bang.
Well, naturally, we sent the dinghy to forensics, and they confirmed that it had indeed been damaged by a harpoon.
Let's put it this way. You know, there's only one person in the area who A, owns a harpoon, and B, hates us enough to use it against one of our members.
The unassuming office of a whaling fanatic holiday park owner was the scene of a police investigation today. The manager of All Seasons Holiday Park in Pembrokeshire, known as Bryn, has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder of a member of a rival holiday park in what appears to have been a calculated act of revenge.
Now, when we sent the harpoon for further testing, our team found tiny fragments of dinghy, and that's all we needed. That's all we needed to connect Bryn to the crime.
I really couldn't believe it. You know, I really thought that Liam had set it all up. But it turns out this guy was just mad on whaling. And the harpoon was from the set of Moby Dick when they filmed it near Fishguard.
Okay, I gweud y gwir, roedd yn y harpoon fi, ond gwybod beth, mae hwnna'n yn circumstantial evidence. Nhw erioed mynd i pino hwnna arno fi. Okay, amser hwn, roedd nhw wedi pino arno fi. Okay? Ond gwybod beth, rwy'n mynd i dod nôl. Mae Church of Phil ddim wedi clywed y diwedd o Brian. O na. Rwy'n mynd i agor parc newydd fy hunan I ffwrdd o Church of Phil.
Well, it just goes to show that it's always the ones you least suspect, isn't it? You know, but did we get an official apology from the police force?
No.
You know, do we forgive them for pointing the finger at us?
No.
No. But, you know, I gotta say, you know, when you look at it, really, you know, in hindsight, it's worked out pretty well for us, hasn't it?
Very well.
Very well indeed.
I'm a leader.
I'd like to think that justice has prevailed, but the detective inside me can't help but wonder if the Church of Bloody Phil has got away with something.
I went to visit Dean in the hospital. He acted like he didn't know me. The doctor said it was just shock, but I knew it was something else. On the way out, I passed Polly and Liam in the waiting room with balloons.
How do you feel now?
Never felt more alive.
Hello? Is that 999?
He's gone, 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 gone. He's gone, 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 gone. He got swept right out to sea. He's gone, 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 gone. He's gone, 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 gone. Drifted off in a rubber dinghy. Goodbye, Dean. The greatest caravan salesman there's ever been. He's gone to the great caravan in the sky. He's gone, 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 gone. He's gone, 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 gone. He's sold his last caravan. He's gone, 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 gone. He's gone, 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 gone. Disappeared while smuggling ham. Goodbye, Dean. The greatest caravan salesman there's ever been. He's gone to the great caravan